Tumba Jomden de Jen Java Da Jomba Yandava Zobe Sanje Riba Da Shabzu Demba Dewara Sheba Chiden Jemba Gibu Dube Galo Yorwa Lana Meba Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chazelo Chudo Jauzo Che Ho Dumba Jumden de Deje Jeba Da Jumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Riba Da Shabsu Temba Dewara Sheba Jigden Gemba Jibo Due Kalo Jorwa Lana Meba Lada Menamje Dumba Sanje Jumden de Benjawa Jaja Duba La Jaze Lo Chodo Jauzo Che Ho Dumba Jumden de Dijin Shewa Chajumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigwa Da Shabso Demba Dewara Sheba Chigden Jemba Jebu Dube Kalo Jurba Lana Meba Lada Menamji Dumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Duba La Janze Lo Chodo Jabzo Che O Sanje Jodan Zoje Jonama La Chanju Bado Tane Jabzo Che Tagi Chushin Gibe Zonama Je Jola Penje Sanje Jobara Sho Sanje Jodan Zoje Jonama La Janju Bado Dane Jabzo Che Tagi Chushin Gibe Zonama Je Jola Penje Sanje Jobara sho sanje chodan soje chonama la chanju bado tane gyabso che tagi choshe gibe chonama je jola penche sanje jobara sho. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well and also staying warm. It's quite cold these days. So, for the past several weeks, we covered 19 verses. So here, just to recap, Shantideva employs various reasons or tactics to really make us adopt or generate this conscientiousness in order to train in the precepts upon taking the Bodhisattva vows. Conscientiousness is the key to successful training or practicing in the path of Bodhisattvas. So, in the fourth chapter, Shantideva uses various reasons why we should employ conscientiousness, why we should be careful of our actions. We cannot afford to be careless and reckless about our actions because all these actions have consequences. So Shantideva first started by listing the consequences, the main consequences, which is that if we violate the vows that we have taken and if we fail to be conscientious or careful with our actions, then we will end up in lower realms, which are very unfavorable and what do you call filled with extreme pain and misery. So for that reason, we need to apply perseverance. We really need to persevere even though there are challenges, and sometimes laziness and carelessness overcome us in our practice. But Shantideva is saying that reflecting or contemplating on these detrimental consequences, we really need to be conscientious about our actions. That's one kind of a reason or tactic. Then Shantideva talks about, at the moment, we are not yet fallen into the abyss of the three lower realms. We are still alive. So we better utilize, we better grab this opportunity. Because if we don't do that, if we take comfort in achieving human rebirth again, Shantideva says that it is very, very unlikely. The chances of obtaining human rebirth again is very slim. So therefore, we really need to engage in practices. We really need to prioritize Dharma practice over everything while we are still alive and healthy. So we have discussed on these various things last week. So now is a continuation. So here, the verse 20, this is the analogy that Buddha gave to illustrate how difficult it is to obtain human rebirth. We have already covered this in the topic of precious human rebirth. But just to repeat for the sake of newcomers, Tinyi chirna chomdengi gyazu chiring nyashingi pugar rube dinchudar minyi shindu tobarkas. For these very reasons, Buddha has said that like for a turtle to insert its neck into a yoke adrift upon the vast ocean, it is extremely hard to attain the human state. So you see in the image, in the text they use yoke, the piece of wood that is used to keep the two oxen together when plowing the land. So here I used just that rubber tube for us to float. So let's say if there is this turtle, turtles are known to live long. So there is this turtle. It's not just a turtle, this blind turtle who spends most of the time underneath the water. And only several hundred years, once in several hundred years, he comes up on the surface. And then there is this tube which is floating, and because of the strong wave from all the directions, sometimes it will be drifted to the east, to the west, to all directions. So it doesn't remain steady there. So if the turtle were to pop his head up once every several hundred years, what are the chances of this turtle getting into that tube? What are the odds of the turtle's neck getting into that hole? We cannot say for sure that it will not happen. The possibility is there. But the chances are nearly impossible. There are so many conditions. If the turtle comes very often, we can say that, yeah, it is possible. And if the turtle is not blind, and if turtle is consciously trying to get into that tube, there's also a chance. But the turtle is blind. And then, if that tube remains at the same spot, then there's still a chance, because the turtle can always come up to the same exact location, and there is a chance that he can get into that tube. But that is not the case. So likewise, it is extremely hard to attain the human state. It is, in Lamrim, I think you remember, another analogy is that if you throw a handful of chickpeas, if you throw that onto the wall, there is a possibility that one may stick on the wall, but it is nearly impossible. So this is like this. So our human rebirth, we don't really realize how fortunate we are to obtain this human rebirth. We kind of undermine the value of this precious human rebirth. It is not just human body. Our is what is called endowed with the 10 endowments which we already covered. Not only we have achieved human rebirth, we have met Buddha Dharma. Not any Buddha Dharma, we have met Mahayana teachings. We also met Tantrayana teachings. It is said that 1,000 Buddhas will come, but many won't teach. Let me rephrase. Very few Buddhas teach Tantrayana. In that sense, we are very fortunate. So that's what Shantideva is trying to instill into us, that we really need to understand. We really need to understand the value we have. Remember, we talked about this blind person stumbling onto a precious jewel. If he doesn't realize the value of that thing, he may even throw it. So it will be useless. Likewise, if we fail to realize the value, the preciousness of our this life, then we will fetter away this great opportunity. So that's what Shantideva is trying to tell us. He is not just trying to, instill fear in us by using all this hell realm and all this. He's really trying to, putting some sense into our empty heads. And those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, when we look down on us and what we are doing with, what we are occupied with, they must be shaking their heads. Oh boy, these beings, they don't realize what they have. Kechi chikje tikbe yang keban narme ne gyurna, tongme kowar sakdegi tenrur minru me chi goes. So here Shantideva is providing reasons why it is difficult to achieve rebirths in higher realms. Even by the evil of one instant, an eon may be spent in the deepest hell, then because of the evil I have gathered since beginningless time, what need to mention my not going to the happy realm? So basically, Shantideva is saying that we have failed to accumulate the causes to be born in higher realms. Kiji chikje tigbe yang keban narme neg jurnas. Remember, we talked about the detrimental consequences of anger or hatred. If we hold a grudge or hatred against a bodhisattva for even one instant, even for one moment, the consequences is so severe that it can destroy the merits that we have cultivated for eons. So how often do we get angry at someone else? And do we know that person is not a bodhisattva? Can we say for sure that, oh, that person definitely is not a bodhisattva? Remember, Maitreya saw, not Maitreya, sorry, the Asanga saw Maitreya as a dog which was ridden with maggots. And I think Narupa or someone saw his guru as a fisherman. So what we see can be very deceiving. That's why we say that mi rimu nangla yu, taga rimu chila yu. The tiger's stripes are outside, that's it. That's why we can tell whether it's tiger or not. But the person's, what kind of person that is, or he or she is, we cannot tell from the appearance. We really need to see the insight, the attainments, the realizations. Unless we have clairvoyance, we cannot judge a person. So therefore, we cannot say that that person is not a bodhisattva. From our own experience, we know that we get angry quite often. And even not all turn out to be a bodhisattva. Even one turn out to be a bodhisattva. Imagine the consequences. The merits, first of all, we have very little merits. The merits that we have created will be all destroyed just in one instant because of anger. So that's why I say, even if by the evil of one instant an eon may be spent in the deepest hell, when our merits exhaust, we are left with negative actions, which we are very, very rich with. We have no problem in producing, first of all, huge amount of non-virtue, and secondly, any kinds. If we are to display the virtues and non-virtues side by side, it will be a stark difference. On the one hand, the non-virtue, first of all, it will be a huge amount, and secondly, there will be all kinds of variety. You want the big one, small one, the good quality, mostly good quality, but with all kind of these nuances. But when it comes to the virtue, it will be feeble, so small, so little, and in terms of quality, very poor. Maybe all made in China type. I think that is a racist, is it? Comment. So that's what here is saying. Then because of the evil I have gathered since beginningless time. So we are talking about just this lifetime. In this very lifetime, how many non-virtues we have accumulated. And that multiplied by countless lives in the past. So when we take all that into account, what are the odds of us achieving human rebirth again? It is very, very tiny. Tezam kono nyongjurne teni namtar mi gyurde dedar teni nyongshindu tigwa shenda rabdu kes. Then we may argue, oh, of course I have committed so many negative actions, yeah, I can understand, I will be born in lower realms. But then, because I am born there, I will be exhausting that negative karma. So I will again escape from the lower realms and I will achieve human rebirth again. And at that time I can do. So here says, that's not so easy. But having experienced merely that rebirth in the hell, I shall still not be liberated. Because for while it is being experienced, other evil will be extensively produced. So we don't have to go far. We don't have to think about hell beings and preta beings. We can look at the animals. Let's say for two dogs. When two strange, two stranger dogs meet, what is their first reaction? Most of them, they growl at each other. And then when you take your dog for a walk, when they see a squirrel, what they do, the first thought is to go after and chase them. Even when a bird lands on the balcony, what does the dog do? Chase after the bird. Of course, we don't know for sure the intention, but it looks like the intention is to kill that. Even some dogs, when you pass by their house, they really come at you. I go for a walk, and every time I pass, there's this house, and this dog always comes at me. I didn't do anything. I'm just walking. So imagine, first of all, they don't really have this kind of virtuous mind. It is so difficult. You cannot even teach them. How are you going to teach them to be compassionate? How are you going to teach them to cultivate loving compassion? And especially about greed. If you have this Labrador, I was told that something is wrong with their brain where it signals that I'm full. So that's why they are always hungry. The satiation, that button is not there. If you leave a bag full of that dog food, with the Labrador, I think he will finish it all. So that's also a type of greed. And some dogs you see, when you put food there, and then sometimes you want it to kind of, poke a bit and mix it, and what do? They will even attack you. So there's this anger and greed together. So while in the lower realms, we continue creating negative karma. So even though part of it was exhausted by taking rebirth, but we are refueling it, replenishing that karma. So the Shantideva was saying that for while it is being experienced, other evil will be extensively produced. We human beings who have some degree of what is right and what is wrong, what is dharma and what is non-dharma, what is virtue and what is non-virtue, even then, the dominant one is non-virtue. So imagine the animals, they don't have this discernment. They don't even know what is right or what is wrong. They don't even know what is dharma and what is non-dharma. So from that viewpoint, we can actually say that, actually once we are born there, it is really, really difficult. And also, remember how we take lives, how we are born, how we go into next rebirth. When we talk about the 12 links of dependent origination, the three things. First of all, which karma is nourished, or which karma is picked up at the time of death, is whichever is the most heaviest one. If the non-virtue or negative karma is the heaviest among the two, then that is picked up. So for animals, or for those who are in the lower realms, it is more likely that the non-virtue is the heavier of the two. So because of that, that will be picked up. And we say that even the negative karma is heavier if we are able to generate a virtuous mind at the time of death. Then it will pick up the virtuous karma, the positive karma, and then we will be born in higher realms. But imagine for animals, will they be able to generate a virtuous mind at the time of death? Even us human being who has this brain, who has this intelligence, who has this capacity to do so, many cannot do. How can you expect animals to do so? So from all these, what we get is that once we are born in lower realms, it is really, really difficult. And then hell, those beings in the hell realm, the lightest, we talk about the 16 types of hell realms. So the lightest one is called Yang Su. When they described the suffering, that they kill each other and they die. They fight with, because of the karma, automatically the weapons appear in their hand, and then there's, for no reason, there's so much hatred, and they started to fight and started to kill each other. And sometimes like your body will be cut into pieces, but still you don't die. But you will experience the pain, the suffering. And then eventually you die, and then of course from the space there will be some sound says that you yang suprajuji, that means you what is that called? You kind of revive. And then they again full form and then started fighting again. So you see what I'm trying to point out here is when you die at that time, you die with so much hatred, so much anger, because you are trying to kill that opponent. And that's not the virtuous mind to die. So these suggests that it is very hard to generate a positive mind at the time of death when you are born in lower realms. So that's why Shantideva is trying to say that we cannot take comfort in, being this chances of being born in human realms, and then I can practice, He's saying that you cannot do that. You cannot entrust, or you cannot put your faith and hope in the future rebirth, because future rebirth looks like going to be an unfavorable one, where you cannot really cultivate any dharma, any virtuous mind. So the point here is, since we are still alive, we can do something about it. If we want to, we can prevent that from happening. We can prevent ourselves from falling into the abyss of the lower realms. So what is the method to do that? Is, first of all, to engage in this powerful purification practice to really exhaust or purify all the negativities that we have cultivated in the past. And then try not to commit new negative karma. This way, we can prevent ourselves from falling into the lower realms. That's why we say that we are our own savior. Tanyi taki kwenyengi, tanyi taki tayanyi. Tanyi legwara duwe na kebe tori tobra chus. Tindre deba nye gyo ne, taki keko maje na, dile luwa sheme de, dile mongban sheme dos. So if, when having found leisure such as this, I do not attune myself to what is wholesome, there could be no greater deception, and there could be no greater folly. Despite having all that conducive environment, But if we still continue to waste our life, if we still continue to devote so much time on meaningless activities, which doesn't even guarantee temporary happiness, then he says that there could be no greater deception. This, when we are deceived by another person of, let's say, $100, if somebody con us of $100, we get so mad and angry at that person. How dare he con me? And sometimes we blame ourselves. How stupid I was to be conned, to let myself conned. But when it comes to this one, fetter away our precious life, we don't feel that way. Shantideva is saying that this is where you should feel that way. There could not be a greater moron than us wasting this life, not really engaging in doing something which provides long-term benefits. At the moment, what we are really doing is really for the short-term goal, only for this life. As a Buddhist, we subscribe to the future lives, the next rebirths. And we also subscribe that it is not just one future life. There will be countless future life. There has been in the past, and there will be countless future lives until we achieve enlightenment or until we achieve liberation. We need to continue taking rebirth and rebirth. So when we think from that perspective, this life is really a small thing. It's really a short term. If you have $100 million, if you really spend so much time just to save $100, we consider that person not so clever, not so wise. Why are you wasting so much when there are so much more there? Likewise, if we spend so much focus on one day's happiness or joy or benefit, we will consider that also stupid. So that's exactly what we are doing actually. When we take into account all that future lifetime, but instead of working for all that future lifetime, but if we focus very narrowly on this very life, then it is really stupid. So that's what he was saying. And I have here the picture of a vase, a golden vase. Kanshi sen rinjin teba de nyenju chabara cheba tewe kyang kanshi miru kene tikba ta cheba teda cherab lumba las. Let's say if you let's say, how shall I put it? Let's say if you come across, let's say if you get this, if you have a golden vase, if you just use this to put in, I don't know, the toilet cleaner, that those, what was that, or Lysol or something, it will be considered a bit stupid, isn't it? So here it says, if you use that kind of precious vase to use to clean the vomit or whatever it is, those to store unclean things, he says that is really stupid. But what is even more stupid is, after achieving this human rebirth, which can produce so much benefits, but if you just waste that and continue engaging in negative actions, non-virtue, he says that is even more, even stupider than the one who uses that golden vase, that precious container, to store some unclean things. Tendre teba nye yu ne tagi kego maje na dile luba sheme de dile mongba sheme dos. And another verse it says, Dirda melu top jurne chimra mulam devjeba dine lumbu lelochen nyanson neso rab gyudes. Maybe yeah, we will talk that later. Kete tagi te tongne mongbe chi jang gi lugna chi war gyube tuijise nyanyen chimbo tangwar gyururus. And if, having understood this, after understanding the value of our human rebirth, after understanding what will happen if we don't utilize this opportunity, if we still foolishly continue to be slothful, what will happen is, when the hour of death arrives, tremendous grief will rear its head. Let's not talk about the actual consequences when we are born in lower realms. But in this very life, when the time comes, we will be stricken with so much grief and remorses, regret. Remember, we talked about these 5 greatest regrets. Looks like let's say most people, they have regret for not spending the life in a particular way. For us Buddhists, that particular way is in the practice of abandoning non-virtue and cultivation of virtue. That's the specific way we should be spending. And if we, out of laziness or recklessness or whatever the excuse or reason, if we fail to do that, at the time of death, we will be remorseful. There will be tremendous grief. We all know that the time will come, but it's not fixed. It would be wonderful if we know our time. Then we can allocate a specific time. Oh, my time is coming. Remember when our retirement time is coming, we prepare for the retirement. Many people prepare. If you don't prepare, then some people go into depression. So when you are maybe 58, or I don't know what is the retirement time, 62 years old. So when you arrive at let's say 60, then you already start planning for your retirement, especially your financial situation, financial arrangements. Okay, I will be retiring at this age. So after that, what will be my income? You will do some calculation, and then you will also see whether you want to do part-time job or full-time somewhere else, something else, to make sure that you have enough resources. But the death, there's no fixed time. We don't know. So because of that, if we don't prepare now, it will be too late. It can be too late. But as I mentioned earlier, we are not doomed yet. If we want to prevent or avoid that grief and regret, there is time to prevent that, which is practice now, do Dharma now. And what is the best way to really help us gear in that way is through adopting this conscientiousness. Being always ready to do the right thing, which is always to stir away from non-virtue and to do the virtue. But that conscientiousness is more important than the mindfulness and introspective awareness. You need to have the mindfulness because you need to remember that, I have to do this, I should not engage in this. And then you need the introspective awareness to really check upon you, to spy upon you, whether you are doing the right thing. But even with these two, if you don't have this willingness, this determination to really do the right thing, then this mindfulness and introspective awareness are useless. It won't be able to yield any positive result. So that's why conscientiousness is very, very important. So as I mentioned earlier, Shantideva, these are the reasons Shantideva is employing here to convince us the importance of conscientiousness, the role of conscientiousness. Why you must adopt this mind? Because of this and this and this. Nyeme soge yu ringdu tagi lu la se gyurna gyoba me se me barwe simdung gyurwa thome saas. So here now Shantideva talks about this regret is not only at the time of death. We will be stricken by this grief and regret even when we are born in the lower realms. Then if my body blazes for a long time in the unbearable flames of hell, inevitably my mind will be tormented by the fires of unendurable remorse. Tibetan phrase is Gyoba Medarbars. Unendurable remorse, fire, the flames of unendurable remorse. Because while we have the opportunity, while we have the freedom, kanzi rawan jugji tun neba kade dedan zimbara meje na yangsa lungwe shangwan jujurba tele chede kangi longwar jurus. That is by Chandakirti. At this time, we have the opportunity, we have the freedom. We are free, we have the freedom to really ensure ourselves from not really falling into the abyss of the three lower realms. But still, if we heed no concern, if we are heedless and if we are reckless and continue violating the vows that we have taken, and then ignoring the consequences of the 10 non-virtues, if we engage in these 10 non-virtues, the result will be we will suffer. So those, I know that some people have difficulty hearing this hell realm and all that, but if you are uncomfortable with this term, but you just imagine unfavorable condition. We talked about this earlier. When there are forest fires, how many insects die in the forest fire? How many animals die in the forest fire? And imagine how much pain, how much heat, pain from extreme heat they endure, they suffer. And then we also know of animals frozen in the ice. And some species, they say that they will be frozen in the ice for a few months and then they are out. We talk as if they don't experience any pain, but who knows? Because of the power of karma, they still remain alive, but they may undergo so much pain and suffering. And then I showed earlier pictures. A picture of someone walking in that cold weather. And like yesterday, it was so cold. For me, I have thick jackets to put on. And then we have a heater in our rooms. But there are so many people out in the street, rolled up in, just a thin blanket under that plastic tent. Those people undergo suffering from cold, extreme cold. But many don't die. They have to endure that pain day after day, night after night. So these are not really the hell realm we are talking about. But from these, we can say that, oh, maybe there is such thing. So whenever I refer to this, because the text uses that one, so I have to use that. So when you hear that, if you have difficulty, you can imagine it as that kind of situation. Those intense, painful situations. So you say, even then, if my body blazes for a long time in the unbearable flames of hell, inevitably my mind will be tormented. So mind is the one that suffers by the fires of unendurable remorse. then there's a lot of regret, but it's too late. Shindu nyega pembesa chishik tarde nye gyurne tani shedan ten shindu chirya nyewa terchina ngagi mongbar cheba shin talan dirsim medu se chimong taijang mashite tagi kongna chishik yus. Having found by some coincidence this beneficial state that is so hard to find, if now while able to discriminate, I once again am led into the hells. So this is same as before. So having found this body, in the commentary they use a fertile land as an analogy. So if you have a fertile land, you can plant anything and it will grow. You can plant vegetables, you can plant flowers, you can plant barley, wheat, rice, whatever. Because of the land itself, because it has that potential to yield all kinds of, to bear all kinds of harvests. So likewise, this human body has the potential to produce all kinds of achievements or attainments. Remember, we talked about it. At the least, if we want to make sure that we don't fall into the lower realms, and to ascertain a good rebirth in the future rebirth, this body has the potential to produce that. And if we want to do more, realizing that just achieving human rebirth in the next life is not enough, because that is also under the control of delusion, karma and delusion. So therefore there is no freedom, or there's no guarantee that I will not be born in lower realms again. So unless and until I achieve emancipation from this cyclic existence, there is no real happiness. So I want to achieve, I want to pursue nirvana. If you want to do that, we have this body can enable it. It has the potential to produce. And then moreover, if we want to really achieve the highest goal, which is Buddhahood, this body can produce. And even if we want to achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime through the tantric vehicle, this body has the capacity to yield that result. So that's why it is likened to a fertile soil, fertile land. So having found by some coincidence this beneficial state that is so hard to find, if now while able to discriminate, not only this, we have this body which has all that potential, we also have some discernment, we have the intelligence. And we are very fortunate in that sense, because how many people are there in this world who has met Buddha Dharma, who has fortune to listen to Mahayana teachings. A very handful of people. And among that handful of people, we are one of that handful of people. So we have this wisdom. We know what is to be abandoned and what is to be cultivated. So we have that wisdom, we have that intelligence. And despite that, in spite of that, if we continue engaging in non-virtue, then the result will be I will be once again led into the hells, led into unfavorable existence. Then as though I were hypnotized by a spell. So that kind of person is like really, is like cast, is like you are cast a spell. Otherwise, why would you do that? If you are a thinking person, if you have something called mind, you wouldn't do that. We wouldn't walk off the cliffs unless we are trying to commit suicide. We wouldn't do that. Because we know that if we walk off the cliff, we will fall and we will die. We wouldn't do that. A blind person would do that. So it is like a person with the fine sight is doing that, is walking off the cliff, off the road. I shall reduce this mind to nothing. So here, I don't know the translation whether it is accurate or not. So Tibetan we say that it is like I have no mind, I have no conscience. It is like I was spelled a cast, and that's why I'm just walking like a zombie. You don't really know what you are doing. You don't really know where you are walking. Even if you are led to walk on the fire, you don't really aware of that. So that's what it means. I shall reduce this mind to nothing. So it's like you are mindless. So if someone who is mindless, of course there's no such thing as mindless, but it's like insane. We excuse insane people when they do insane things. We say that, oh, it is because he is insane. Even in the court case, you can plead insanity and you can get away with the crime because the understanding is that you are not yourself. There's something is wrong with your brain or your mind. So if an insane person does that kind of action, we understand. So here Tibetan word se means tala dirsim medu se, but we are not insane person. If somebody calls us insane, we will be so angry. We will take it as an insult. But from this, the way, judging from our action, it is really like the insane. Remember, Einstein defines insanity as doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. So that's what we have been doing. We have been pursuing the wrong causes and conditions, but expecting completely another result. It's like sitting on the west side. It is like sitting, like let's say, facing the west and hoping for the sunlight in the morning. Sun comes out from the east, isn't it? If you stand facing west and hoping for the sunlight, It's not going to happen. So if an insane person does that, it is excusable, it is understandable. But we are not insane. So then as though I were hypnotized by a spell, I shall reduce this mind to nothing. Even I do not know what is causing me confusion. What is there? So here is, even I do not know what is causing me. So it's like, I am not aware of the causes why I am behaving in that insane way. So now the question is, what is there dwelling inside me? What is that thing causes me to do all this? Who is the culprit here? Shedang seso tanamni kangla la so yumin la pazang minyang chishik tar teda kida tenshin ches. Although enemies such as hatred and craving, so now we are, remember, identifying the culprit. Who is the one who is making me do all this? What are the causes? So he says, although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither or neither any arms nor legs, and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I been used like a slave by them? So now saying that actually the culprits, there are many culprits. The culprits are these delusions, these afflictive emotions, the hatreds. Of course, here the directly, explicitly mentions are hatred and craving, but it's all the negative emotions. So these so-called enemies, these hatreds, these afflictive emotions, they neither have any arms. So like the ordinary enemy, they have arms so they can beat you. And if you run, they have legs and they can chase us. And then they will catch us and then they will beat us. But these hatreds and cravings, these afflictive emotions, they have none of this and are neither courageous nor wise, because these afflictive emotions are associated with laziness and ignorant and all this. So we cannot say that these are courageous, they are zealous. Neither can we say that they are wise. But if that is the case, how come we have been controlled by these emotions? So here Shantideva is pointing to us, pointing the culprit. So these are the ones. As long as these enemies reside within us, we will continue behaving in an insanely way that we have been behaving in the past. So we really need to get rid of this. Remember when we talk about taking rebirth in samsara, the two essential causes are the delusion and karma. Even between the two, delusion is the worst. Even if we have karma to be born in samsara, but if we don't have the delusion, if we, let's say, if we're able to eradicate afflictive emotions from our mental stream, then there's nothing to really pick that up. There's nothing to nourish, nothing to water that karma, to ripen. So that's why the afflictive emotions, are the worst between the two in terms of bringing us back to samsara. So it's like, how have I been used like a slave by them? How I am being enslaved. Thagi similar nation do gagur thala nö cheba. Telang mito soba ni nemin soba mebe ne. So now talking about what kind of what is our response? What do we do? What have we been doing to these enemies? Have we been really fighting? Or we have been really treating them like a guest in our home? He says, for while they dwell within my mind, at their pleasure they cause me harm. Yet I patiently endure them without any anger. But this is an inappropriate and shameful time for patience. These negative emotions have been the driver, have been the king, have been the commander. These are the ones that has been giving us orders. The anger always gives us instructions to fight back, argue, quarrel. Don't accept that. Fight back. That's why they say the anger gives this false confidence, false sense of confidence, or false sense of courage. One of the arguments of the what you call proponents of anger, they say anger, we need to have anger because anger gives us courage. But what kind of courage? At that moment, we feel courageous. We feel brave to say and do things. But after that incident, what happens? Most of the time, it is something we regret. We were very bold to say this and that, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said this. And sometimes we say that, oh, it's because of my anger. So he says, for while they dwell within my mind, at their pleasure they cause me harm. So you have given them the full freedom. Anytime you can give me instructions, I will oblige that. I will serve you. It is like, it is when we are driving, it is like, we are being told where to drive. It's like following the GPS. Okay, in 10 in 10 meters, turn right. Okay, we turn right. Oh, go straight, go straight. Make a U-turn, we make a U-turn. So that's what we have been doing, very obediently. Yet I patiently, but all these are causing so much harm. The reason why we violate our vows, the reason why we give up bodhicitta, the reason why we forsake other sentient beings, the reason why we engage in these 5 heinous crimes is all because we have been following the order given by these afflictive emotions: anger, hatred, jealousy, greed. So that's why I'm saying that we really need to fight. We shouldn't tolerate this. And then the question is, are we supposed to practice patience? He says that this kind of patience is says that a misplaced patient. We have something called misplaced compassion. Likewise, this is a misplaced patience, inappropriate patience. We should be patient with other people, not with our afflictive emotions. But this is an inappropriate and shameful time for patience. I think it's... do we have time for one more? So let me quickly cover one more. So the first one says that it's a misplaced patience. We need to treat them as enemy. So now the reason is, why do we need to treat them as enemy? Because it says, Kedil hada lamin tamje tala charlangja teda jija narmebe menang chichin jugminu nyomo tobjin ta dini kangda tena rirabjang tawayane maluba dirda keji chigla tors. So why we should view them as enemy is because they cause so much harm, unimaginable harm. So like what? Should even all the gods and anti-gods rise up against me as my enemies, they could not lead nor place me in the roaring fires of deepest hell. If the whole human being, even the gods, here they use gods and anti-gods because they are known to be more powerful than the human race. So these are considered the greatest warriors. Even all the greatest warriors stand on one side, and then we ourselves as on the other side. If they all treat ourselves me as an enemy, it says that the harm they may inflict on me is nothing compared to the harms that is inflicted by these afflictive emotions. Maximum, what can they do? The gods and these anti-gods, or the ordinary enemies, what harm can they inflict on us? Yeah, they can pierce us with all that weapon. They may cut us into pieces. They may loot or take away, rob our wealth and all that. And the greatest harm they can do is they can take our life. That's all they can do. Maximum damage or maximum harm they can inflict upon us is taking our life. That's all they can do. But these, the afflictive emotions which we are giving, giving great hospitality within us, can cause more than that. They can bring us to lower realms, whereas the ordinary enemies cannot bring us to lower realms. They cannot make us born in lower realms. But our enemies within us can make us suffer in this unfavorable existence, such as the lower realms. Nyumo topjen thade ni khanda tena rirab jang tewa yang ni maluba teda kije chigla dor. the severity, the intensity of the harm is like this. But the mighty four, these disturbing conceptions, in a moment can cast me amidst those flames, which when met will cause not even the ashes of the king of the mountains to remain. So it is so powerful that the harm is likened to that kind of fire, that kind of flame, that can instantly bring down the mountains into ashes. So for that reason, it is saying that we need to treat our afflictive emotions as enemy instead of treating them as our guests and then giving them the warmest hospitality. We really need to develop or generate the antidotes to these afflictive emotions and try to get rid of them get rid of them and chase them away. So that's what it means. So I think time's up and we will stop here today and let's say the dedication prayers. Dagi chini sawe gyawa de denda dowa gunla kangbenda gyawara chuzun lozan antawai tembe nyingbo rendo seje sho jambe bawe chedara kemba da kundo zambu teya deshendo teta kunje jesu talo je gyawa deda tamje rabdo ngo duzun shekbe gyawa tamje ge ngowa kanla chodo ngaba de tage gewe sawa degun ja zambo joji rabdo ngowara ges. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the Sunday.